that's what entrepreneurship is. I mean, it's not about who has the most money. It's not who has the best idea, because I will guarantee you that will evolve. It might even dramatically change. You know, the intangibles of building a business. That cannot be underestimated.
Welcome to Being the Change, the official podcast of James Madison University. Brought to you by Madison Magazine. Each episode brings you stories of how members of the JMU community combine intellect with action to live lives of purpose and meaning. That's being the change.
What's up, JMU? Andy Perrine here. Welcome to Being the Change. Today's episode, we're visiting with a distinguished alumnus of James Madison University, Mike Norwood. Mike, welcome to campus.
Thank you, Andy. Real pleasure to be back on campus.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for coming to campus. Mike is a regular speaker at the Gillum Center for Entrepreneurship. They have coffee talks with the student panel, and he gets these kids riled up and ready to jump into the marketplace and be entrepreneurs. So on behalf of the rest of the university, thanks for doing that, Mike.
Oh, great pleasure. Love JMU.
It's clear you do. Well, one of the reasons why I called Mike a distinguished alum, he's had a fascinating career, and he's on a second stage of his career, and he's created this company, this apparel company called Where's Woody, and the business model is incredibly interesting, and it's basically flipped apparel distribution on its head, and it's a fascinating story, but it also has got a real heart to it because Mike is a lifelong type 1 diabetes guy, and he gives 7% of the profits from Where's Woody to diabetes research. So it's got a super story behind Where's Woody. So, Mike, why don't you tell us what was the genesis of Where's Woody, and how did you get the brand started?
Well, I was always one of those guys that, like most of us, worked in corporate America. I was very fortunate to work in medical, specifically in the diabetes industry, I call it, in the medical device space with Medtronic. I've been the beneficiary of insulin pump therapy and continuous glucose monitoring. And while I was at Medtronic, had the opportunity to help about 3,000 people transition from daily injections over to pumps and then launch CGM, which is now quite, it's amazing. It's a standard of care. But I had always had this itch to do really two things. I, for some reason, thought that I always wanted to get an MBA for whatever reason.
Right.
And I got that at Babson College, when I was in my early 40s. So I went to a program that was really built for people that had been into their careers for quite some time, that maybe have going through a bit of midlife crisis and wanted to rediscover themselves.
Sure.
And I had always known that beyond getting my MBA, I wanted to come out of there doing something different than I was doing, which to some people was a little bit nuts because you do have a pretty good career. You can afford nice vacations.
You were comfortable.
There was a lot going on, but not to get too deep into it, but I had some struggles with my parents who were not well at the time. I had a young child at home, working full time, and a couple things happened. I took a class at Babson in Brazil, which enlightened me to this idea that, okay, if I partnered with an existing company like Havaianas flip-flops and Maui Jim sunglasses, and I've bought a funked out what's now our Woody, our funky beach wagon.
The classic sort of station wagon Jeep with the wood on the side.
Yeah, the registration.
The old surfing guys used to use them, right?
Yeah, the registration still says station wagon because it was pre-SUV days.
Right.
And so I bought one of those, and I approached the town of Falmouth on Cape Cod to be able to get a street vendor permit. So I can hawk and peddle flip-flops and sunglasses wherever people were.
And the permit was cheap, so it was like you got the best parking in Falmouth.
It was $10. Yeah, I got a permit for less than what people paid for a day to park on Main Street. But the simple concept early on was to bring the store to the people, not expect that they would come to you. So that the whole idea was that, okay, on a nice hot sunny beach day, people are going to be at the beach doing different things. They're not shopping. So let's bring the shop to them and give them a price point, at least at that time, that would be a bit impulsive. These are people that can, are taking a steamship over to Martha's Vineyard. They had a few extra bucks for $30 to pick up a pair of flip-flops, or even $80 to pick up a low-end pair of Maui Jims was something they could they would want to do. And what it taught me was that bringing the brand to them versus us waiting for them or hoping that they would come into our store on such a day was really valuable.
And so you were in pharma for like more than 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
About 15.
15?
I spent most of that at Medtronic,
Yeah.
and then I spent a couple years sort of cutting my teeth in big pharma. But the meat of my success was at Medtronic, and then just quite frankly, almost quit that cold turkey.
And you're selling flip-flops on the beach.
Exactly.
This is crazy.
Yeah, I look back and I go, I don't know what I was thinking, but I've come to learn that I wanted to, as people say, you want to bet on yourself. If this doesn't work, I knew that I could always go back to what I was doing, and I
Right.
tell people that today.
That's what you tell the students.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
especially they're much younger than me, so
Right.
you're always going to recover.
Right.
But it was a bit more of a gamble for me, knowing that you get a little bit older. I mean, as a company, I don't want to hire me back, not so much. I mean, but the reality was that I'd always, even when I was working in corporate at Medtronic, you're betting on yourself. I mean, they'll give you the tools that you need to make it happen, but it's up to you.
Yeah.
And so that was really what I was all about, and really trying to prove that this concept of bringing a retail sort of store to them and making it really attractive and compelling and give people really good reasons to buy, telling a great story. And then to build on that, people we ran into said, oh, you got to take this to other places. There's like music festival, there's lacrosse tournaments. And I go, okay, great. And I go, we started doing it. We had, relatively good success. But I soon came to realize that most people were like, why don't you have your own brand? I'm like, I don't know how to build that.
Right.
I'm a med device guy.
Right.
So that took me quite a long time to really learn the trade about supply chain.
But little did you know, you had already really created a mini brand with the whole Woody concept.
Yeah. I mean, we were onto something,
Yeah, right.
But I think early on it was, I came to this realization that, why am I doing this for them? Mm-hmm. Maybe we are more than for Where's Woody? And so I said, all right, I got to cut my teeth and learn the game as it relates to product. Mm-hmm. And and I'd always, of course, being in medical, I had to wear like sport coats and nicer clothes. And I'm like, okay, let's make us a zip up, a half zip. So we found a factory. After a couple, trial and errors, we found a factory in Fall River, Mass, which many, give or take 100 years ago, was the place where people went to get
Right.
their clothes made. Like some 30, 40 years ago, about 95% of what we wore was made here in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's about 3% today.
Right.
So we found somebody that would work with us. We made a couple pieces. We started to mix them in with some T-shirts, some hats, some hoodies, what's now our core middle of our lineup. And then work our way towards becoming what I think we're becoming very quickly, and that's a sportswear brand.
Right.
Making really, really great quality Peter Millar, Johnny O-like stuff that's made here that's got a bit more pop, bit more personality.
And was that a commitment early on that it was made in America?
The truth of it all is there's a slice of pride there,
Yeah.
but it really had less to do with that than it did the working capital constraints that we had. Mm-hmm. So when you go offshore, they will not make anything unless you give them an order of about 1,500 pieces per style. Mm-hmm. They might give you a few colors or colorways. And we quickly learned that in order to make one sweatshirt style in 3 colors, times 1,500 at let's call it $15. I'm not a mathematician, but that's about 25 grand.
Yeah.
I don't have that laying around.
Right.
But what we found was that it was simply more of a financial decision where we could make a minimum of as low as 1. Yeah, they charge us a premium for that
Sure.
one unit, but we could make 72. We could make 48. We could make 100 or 200. And we can do it in a way that allowed us to sort of walk and figure out what we were doing and get our styles right and do it economically where it made more sense. So the answer to the question of why do we make here in the U.S., it was more of a financial
Right.
decision. It's evolved into our strategy and our supply chain
Sure.
strategy nowadays. But it was, I hate to say it, less of a factor of American pride.
Right.
That's a piece. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And we love the country, but at the same time, we knew that in order to make this work, we needed to be able to afford to build these products. And so, it's scaled up nicely since then.
Well, tell us about how you scale, because it's a really interesting story. And like I said earlier in the episode, it kind of turns the traditional retail distribution concept on its head.
It does. And, a lot of us, we all know that, this is far longer than we have time for. But right now, the whole retail side of the apparel industry is changing dramatically. Most of it's online,
Right.
and that's just not in clothing. It's pretty much across the board. But everything is bulk produced. I joke to say bulk produced in Bangladesh. We make small batch in Boston. That's
Right.
how we do it.
Small
A lot of
batch in
bees in
Boston.
there.
Yeah.
But that's sort of our play. But the industry is, they claim sustainability. They claim it's all about how you make the product and what it's made out of to make it environmentally friendly and all that. The fact of the matter is that that's marketing. It really is not what's going on,
Right.
in my frank opinion. What they're doing is they're making a different collection every 3 months. They're inflating the price to be able to allow for marketing, promotion. And then what it doesn't sell, it's marked up well enough that they can afford to mark it down and still make money.
Right.
So product is flooded in the market. It's overproduced.
Winds up in the landfill.
It does,
Yeah.
and then these are the companies, and I won't mention them, but I think people can guess who I'm talking about, are ones that are, claim about saving the planet and, environmentally concerned. And the truth of the matter is that if it's made anywhere, except in the U.S., less so probably Central and South America, which is, there's some manufacturing moving to Peru and other places that are closer to home, nearshored, as they say. But if you put any product on a container ship, there is nothing that builds more diesel fuel
Right.
than a ship that travels across the Pacific in 30 days. So there's nothing environmentally conscious about that. So that's the answer to the eco-friendly claim that's made out there quite a bit. So we started making some products here. And like I said, small batch in Boston, make them as we go, give the product that people want when they want it. We're not chasing trends per se, but there is absolutely no reason that you need to make so many different styles, change this or change that so many times a year to keep it so-called fresh. The only thing that we do is we'll change a zipper color, we'll change a thread
Right.
color, we'll maybe introduce a new fabric. But if you look at what we've done over the, now 7, 8, 9 years of making, close to home sportswear and outerwear it's just evolved very slightly. A lot of the styles are very signature. They're classic. But the colorways and the way we finish these products is unique to our brand.
Well, and you're showing up at events where people are having a good time.
Oh, yeah.
And they can associate the brand with the event. Tell us about how you came up with this distribution strategy and why it works so well as Where's Woody.
I mean, this is the thing I think that really, I love talking about.
Right.
Because, again, going back to the reality, unless you have a deep pockets full of money to be able to bulk produce product and then go to a trade show and sell it, you can play that game. That's a lot of the big brands now do.
Right.
But they have somebody else's money to work with. But the whole reality here is that we're going to make things as we go. We're going to go to where our customers are. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. That's what we did in the beginning. So now we go to premier events. I just got back from California. We did the largest lacrosse tournament in the country. And you go, what's your association with lacrosse? Nothing really. It's a great sport, obviously, but the people that go are wearing Patagonia, Johnny O, Peter Millar, Lululemon, companies that we compare ourselves to. So again, it goes back to our genesis of going to the beaches and to the steamship and between Martha's Vineyard and Woods Hole on Cape Cod. You go where they are. But the idea of going to them, talking to your customer, interacting with them, shaking their hand, getting their email, getting their text allows you to, very efficiently and very cost effectively remarket to these people. And that's how we've done it. Totally organic. So one of our biggest pitches here to, people that are interested in getting involved with the brand is, we've done all this with essentially one full-time employee. It's not the case anymore. We have a couple, myself, and no ad spend and no outside investment. So it's been a complete grassroots effort. And of course, we want to grow and we want to go to more events. We want to go to premium events. But what we are not prioritizing is distribution at retail. We love the great boutiques. We love seasonal stores, resorts. We love golf. I love golf. But, our time will come when I think that we're ready to do that. But right now our model is still very grassroots oriented, looking to expand our distribution. But you go to where your clientele is and they're ready to spend. So at a lacrosse tournament, as an example, they watch their kids play. And the only thing they do when they're not, which is a few hours of a whole day, is eat and shop.
Right. And people are hungry for experiences in real life because we've gotten so consumed by our digital lives. So this is a really timely kind of play that you're going after.
It's sometimes you sort of step in it, I think, but I'm an old schooler, and I have always felt that there's nothing that beats the face-to-face and telling your story and getting people to think that what you make is first and foremost really cool and better and different and all that. But you're right. I mean, I think people are starved for something that is tangible,
authentic.
Yes, yeah. And there's sadly not as much of that as there was anymore. And I digress because I think this is important. I think no discredit to Amazon. I have a lot of respect for people that build empires like that. Right. We all dream to build something as big and impactful as like an Amazon, but they've conditioned us as consumers to overbuy, and because they make it so darn easy to return stuff,
right.
And we're like, no, can we just get this right the first time? And knock on wood, I mean, our return rate is like so far below industry average, it's not even funny, because we want people to touch our stuff, and we know that we're young, and this is early, and like I said, we'll get into different channels and become more e-commerce heavy and over time, but that personal experience and that ability for people to touch, feel, talk, and then be, convinced that this is a great move for them. And keep in mind, these are at lacrosse tournaments where people are already out lots of money. It might be a volleyball tournament, music festival, wine festival, but they don't hesitate to spend $150 on something they've truly valued.
Well, speaking of authentic, you were joking before about the quote-unquote marketing, the corporate social responsibility play of we're going to save the world even though we're having stuff made in Bangladesh.
Exactly.
You've got a really interesting corporate social responsibility element to Where's Woody, in that you give a significant portion of the proceeds of Where's Woody to diabetes research.
Right. I mean, and I'll qualify that to say that we modify or change the percentage in time. So when it's November, like National Diabetes Awareness Month, we'll jack it up a little bit. Right. In other months, it's, it can be as low as 1% of sales. But just for point of comparison, Patagonia has made a big deal about their 1% for the Planet initiative. And we do essentially the exact same thing, but for diabetes.
Right.
Again, the really cool thing about that is it's super transparent. It's not about the bottom line, it's about the top line, so that when people make a purchase, they're making a donation.
Right.
And we think that's a very powerful thing. But yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate in the respect that having diabetes, not the most fortunate thing to have happened, but I worked in an industry that allowed me to help other people.
Right.
And so it's a big part of who I am and giving back. And it's something that, again, is super easy for us to be able to do. And as a point of comparison with the comp with Patagonia, it's easy for us to explain. But quite frankly, I mean, I think a lot of us at this point are like, okay, it's great to donate money and all that, but like, can we just get past the drugs and the technology and find a biological cure? That would be super nice.
Well, my beloved daughter, Aya, is type 1 diabetes. So when I heard your story, I was like, I got to talk to this guy, because I love the fact that you're trying to find a cure. She's got a Dexcom.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's, and I tell you, I'm stunned. As much as I'm out in front of our clientele, that the amount of people, whether it's parents with or kids, their kids with diabetes, a close friend, it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And, that's probably a podcast for a different day,
Sure.
but like the amount of disease that we see nowadays is off the charts. But the reality is that, it's just part of what I want to do in building a great company. And, I get back to, what I said before, deliver it in a way that people really are really intrigued by what you're doing.
Right.
Give them a great product,
Right.
That's under marketed for once, and then have a mission that it's personal to you.
Well, I said earlier in the program, you're here on campus to talk to the students over at the Gillum Center for one of the coffee talks, and you being up in front of those kids and extolling the virtue of doing well and doing right, is such a killer proposition. What kind of response do you get from the students when you're grokking on how cool Where's Woody is?
Yeah, I first of all, I think when I talk to anybody, I think they're all like terrified that that this is not something that I want to be an entrepreneur, and I go, it's a rough ride. And so I really caution everything about, we all have big dreams. We all want to build an empire, for lack of a better word. But the process, like I said before, if you bet on yourself, it's all on you. The money, everybody that, every employee,
your time,
all of it.
Yeah.
And so, you may not even, I got to admit, I never realized what I was getting myself into. I never expected I was going to work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But the hours, the travel, the customer service, this is missing a stitch or whatever it might be. So when I talk to these students, it's just know that what you're getting in is a lot harder than what you might think it will be. And if you think it's going to take so long, double or triple it.
Right.
Because any great company, and I always love to say this, but Lululemon's been around going on 30 years. Nike is now close to, before it was Nike with Blue Ribbon Sports, is going on its 60th year. These are brands, Patagonia 50. These are companies that have taken decades to be able to get to where they are. And so I don't think I have decades, but at least I can leave it for somebody that can take it to a level maybe I couldn't anyway. But it takes a lot more than what you might assume going in.
Well, and by communicating that to the students, you're not just presenting them with the principles of entrepreneurship and business concepts and marketing and distribution, but you're teaching them resilience, you're teaching them tenacity, you're teaching them to be scrappy, get up when you're knocked down. When something goes wrong, it's not a stop sign, it's a directional sign. That means a lot to the students.
100 and some odd percent. I mean, that's what entrepreneurship is. I mean, it's not about who has the most money. It's not who has the best idea, because I will guarantee you that will evolve. Mm-hmm. It might even dramatically change. The company's never really, even ours today. I mean, it's evolving. Mm-hmm. And we could talk a lot about that, and I'm excited about that. But as it relates to the intangibles mm-hmm. of building a business, mm-hmm. That cannot be underestimated. And that's why, if you're going to do this, you got to say, I believe that I have that sort of grit and resilience, patience. I'm the most impatient person before I started this company. If you don't become somewhat more patient, you're in trouble, because that's what this is really. It's almost a game of attrition. Mm-hmm. I tell people all the time, I said, some of these companies, even the ones I just mentioned, perhaps were not the greatest conceived, but they have been able to endure and get to where they are today by just finding a way to survive. A lot of it, we always talk about money. Every one of these companies that I mentioned was out of it more than once. Mm-hmm. So the money is a sort of a tangible piece, but it really comes down to what's inside. Right. Whether it's one founder or it's many founders, it comes down to their ability to fight through it and get to the other side.
Well, you've created a really cool ethos for the company, and it's got a particular JMU flavor to it, because there's something about JMU. We all love the beach. You get under the Outer Banks, you see JMU flags up and down the beach, and so the whole "Where's Woody" concept kind of flows into that ethos. So, where can listeners go to look at the "Where's Woody" story? and see what you've created?
So you can shop our brand at where'swoody.com, and I always have to spell it out. It's WEARSWOODY. And Woody, just in case anybody's curious, is our old Grand Wagoneer.
Right.
That's what they used to call those faux wood-paneled station wagons back in the day. And although my nickname is by many of my JMU friends is Woody, I would never name a company after me. It's named after our Wagoneer, the Woodster. But where'swoody.com hosts our line that's, again, changes all the time.
Sure.
Not dramatically, because we think we make classic stuff with few iterations over time that keep people coming back. And then I'll touch on that you might see on there that we're beginning to expand a little bit into licensing. And we're proud to say that JMU is our first college license. We think that's a play for us with college tailgates and all these tournaments that we've done, and going again to where people are and selling our stuff. But so you can buy like JMU lacrosse merchandise there. You can buy JMU themed half zips and hats. I think our hats are just so good. So that's where you can buy our goods now. And there's going to be a lot more to come as it relates to what we're doing with and around JMU, which is all going to hopefully lead to us, being in a place like the bookstore.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, Mike Norwood, thanks so much for coming and being with us on Being the Change. And even more so, thanks for your commitment to coming back and giving back to the school by enlightening our students with your experience. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Andy, and go Dukes.
Go Dukes. And for our listeners, if you've got any ideas for future episodes, don't forget you can reach us at beingthechange@jmu.edu. Until next time, take it easy.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to hear more stories about how members of the JMU community are being the change. Dive deeper and explore countless other stories at jmu.edu/Madison Magazine. Go Dukes!
The Being the Change podcast was conceived by Jim Heffernan, editor of Madison Magazine, and me, Andy Perrine, head of JMU Marketing. Thanks to Jenna Polk and her team at Rose Library Studios, where the show is recorded by Cody Troyer, Steve Adderton, and Olive Santos, all of the crazy talented JMU photo video team who produced the final episodes at the Ice House in downtown Harrisonburg. Original music by 2019 alumnus Neil Perrine. You can find the Being the Change podcasts on all the major platforms, where we hope you'll like, share, and subscribe.